stated that, yes, we go with the green belt as long as you also include the restrictions falling under the
Hey,
regional.
we are live.
They're a good document to look at, both of them. And it is 7 o'clock, and I'd like to welcome everybody to this regular council meeting on March 22nd. And due to COVID-19 and recommendations by Waterloo Region Public Health to exercise social distancing and public gathering thresholds, township council meetings are currently being held electronically. Members of the public may watch and or participate in this open meeting electronically using any of the following methods. First off, watch the live stream by accessing the meeting at calendar.northdumfries.ca/council. Under the video column, click the link for the meeting date that you wish to watch. You do not need a YouTube account to watch the live stream. You cannot directly participate in the meeting via the live stream, as this is for viewing only. And the other option is members of the public interested in attending as an observer or wish to speak to an item listed under item 7, items for discussion, must have submitted the request in writing to the clerk's division at clerk@northdumfries.ca before 7 p.m. on March 21st. A link and telephone number was provided to those who registered before the registration deadline. And finally, in accordance with the township procedural bylaws, members of the public are not able to verbally speak to all items on the regular council agenda. Members of the public may only verbally speak to the items listed under item 7 exclusively, but may submit their comments in writing to all other items. If you'd like to comment on a particular item, members of the public are invited to submit written comments at clerk@northdumfries.ca, which will be provided to the mayor and council prior to the meeting and will form part of the public record. I'd now like to call the meeting to order, please, and can I have approval of the agenda?
Moved by Councillor Rolliman and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that council adopt the March 22nd, 2021 regular council agenda as presented with the following addendums. 1, add item 7.7, report number BLD-01-2021, consideration of a conditional building permit agreement and release of a holding symbol, Teco Block Manufacturing Processing Facility, Cedar Creek Road. 2, add item 11.3, report from Mayor Foxton regarding an appointment to the Utility Steering Committee. 3, add item 12.1, bylaw number 3236-21, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 3216-21, being an amendment to the general zoning bylaw 689-83 for the township of North Dumfries. Mayor Foxton, your vote?
Yes.
Councillor Rolliman?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCurry?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, there's no presentations, delegations, and consent agenda committee of the whole. So you do not have to read the motion in its entirety. But, so adoption and carried resolution from the March 8th, 2021 committee of the whole meeting.
Certainly. So moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Ossner that council adopt the following recommendations as listed in 6.1A through H on the agenda as presented by committee of the whole dated March 8th, 2021. And that's as presented.
I have Councillor Ossner and then Councillor Rolliman.
Within the recommendation, I have read that the Air Charity Barbecue has stopped operating as such. And item B on there was for the grant allocations. 3,500 was to go to the Air Charity Barbecue. Is that no longer going to happen, since they on their Facebook page they have said they have basically shut down operations now?
CEO McNeely.
Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor Ossner, staff have sent a letter to the executive of the Air Charity Barbecue, asking them to submit correspondence to the township confirming their intent for 2021 and whether or not their withdrawal is actually just for calendar year 2021, or are they disbanding as an entity as a go forward?
on Facebook, that was their words. They're not moving forward the barbecue this year, and they're shutting down.
We can't go by Facebook, Councillor Osner. We have
I
to
know,
have it in
but
writing.
I'm not prepared to pass a $3,500 grant to a group that is promoting on their social media that they are shutting down. I'm not comfortable with that. So if the rest of the councilors are, that's a different story.
And Councillor Roman.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councillor Oster. The group has announced publicly that they have folded. So even if they haven't informed us, I think we should just remove that $3,500 from the grant and not. And if by some chance they are still active, they can contact us after the fact.
So may I recommend that we amend the motion, striking out part B of B, stating that in that spot, upon confirmation, we'll do a second motion. That's it, a motion saying upon confirmation of the status of the Air Charity Barbecue, a decision will be brought back to council at that time. Is that good enough? Would that need to be a second motion, Ms. Ashley?
So council can amend if they'd like to insert that, or you could pull item B in its entirety if you'd like to pull that item out and
Ms. Stedall.
amend it.
Ms. Stedall?
I definitely would not recommend pulling the rest of it because the other agencies definitely will want to see their funds.
No, we're recommending just pull B.
For
BB,
B,
just the one, BB.
Yeah. Recommend that you pull B, and then if there is further information, BB.
BB. So we will pass it as amended. We will do the amendment first, Ms. Sage, so we have clear on it. So if you could read back the amendment in regard, not the amendment. We will do the other motion first, stating that Air Charity Barbecue will not receive funding until confirmation of their status. And I believe we will have it moved by Councillor Osner and seconded by Councillor Rowland as the two questioners in regards to it.
Certainly, okay. So moved by Councillor Osner and seconded by Councillor Rollman, that the Air Charity Barbecue shall not receive funding in the amount of $3,500 upon confirmation, written confirmation from the Air Charity Barbecue. That's sufficient?
Confirmation of their status.
Confirmation. Okay.
Are we
Mayor
good?
Fox?
Okay.
Yep, Mayor Foxton, yeah, your vote on that?
Yes.
Councillor Rollman,
Yes.
Councillor Osner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
that carries.
Thank you. Now, we will go back to the original motion and state as amended. Councillor McCreary and Councillor Osner, are you okay to amend that motion? Mover and second, as the mover and second is? Okay. So as amended, please. And you do not have to read it in its entirety.
Moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Osner that council adopt the following recommendations as amended, listed in 6.1.1A through to H on the agenda as presented by Committee of the Whole dated March 8th, 2021, as presented. Mayor Foxton, your vote?
Yes.
Councillor Wolleman,
Yes.
Councillor Osner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
that carries.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to 6.2, minutes of the meetings. If you read the motion, please.
Moved by Councillor Osner and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that council approve the following minutes. Regular council meeting minutes dated February 22nd, 2021, special council meeting minutes dated March 1st, 2021, and Committee of the Whole minutes dated March 8th, 2021. Mayor
Any
Foxton?
questions or comments?
Yep.
I vote yes.
Councillor Rowland,
Yes.
Councillor Osner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
that carries.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we have correspondence received from the Regional Waterloo Public Health and Emergency seeking permission to do the live aside. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please?
Moved by Councillor Rowland and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that the correspondence received from the Region of Waterloo Public Health and Emergency Services requesting a letter of permission from the township authorizing access to lands for the purposes of mosquito larval surveillance be received, and that council authorize staff to issue the enclosed letter of permission to the Region of Waterloo Public Health and Emergency Services on behalf of the township, authoring access to lands for the purposes of mosquito larval surveillance and, if indicated, larval and control measures. Mayor Foxton, your vote?
Yes.
Councillor Rowland?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. And next we have 7.2, the Williston Storm Drain. Are any questions or comments in regards to this item? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please?
Moved by Councillor Gillespie, seconded by Councillor Rowland, that PW report number 01-2021 be received, and that council authorize the Director of Public Works to enter into negotiations with Oxford Civil Group Incorporated as per the provisions of section 6.1 of the purchasing bylaw, and that upon the completion of successful negotiations, the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute any necessary documents to facilitate the completion of this project, and that if negotiations are not successful, that staff be directed to bring a report to council. Mayor Foxton, your vote?
Yes.
Councillor Rowland?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
That carries.
Next, thank you. We have 7.3, tender award for road resurfacing various locations. Any questions or comments? Seeing none,
Moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Rowland, that PW report number 02-2021 be received, and that council approve the award of contract ND-RFT-01-2021 for the resurfacing of various roads in the amount of $1,411,244.92 after HST rebate to Ecom Secum Incorporated operating as Branco Construction, and that a project contingency of $161,630.08 net of HST rebate be established, and that council approve the reallocation of $120,000 from the Engineering Design Hall Northumberland to Main Capital Project to 2021 road resurfacing various locations, and that the mayor clerk be authorized to execute any necessary documents to facilitate the completion of this project. Mayor Foxton?
yes.
Councillor Rowland?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. Item number 7.4, request for single sole sourcing diesel plate packer. Before I ask if there's any question, what is a diesel plate packer? CEO McNeely.
Madam Mayor, this is a hand tool that's powered with a diesel motor, and we use it to compress the granular materials around roadside culverts.
Thank you very much, CEO McNeely. Any other questions? Seeing none, Ms. H, please.
Moved by Councillor Ossner and seconded by Councillor McCreary that PW report number 03-2021 be received, and that staff be authorized to sole single source the purchase of a used diesel plate packer in the amount of $9,667.20 after HST rebate to New Dundee Wacker Newson Coleman Equipment. Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
Councillor Rowland?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
That carries.
Next, we have up the council remuneration expenses brought back for corrections. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, go ahead, Ms. Sage.
Moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Rowland, That report FIN 05-2021, 2020 council remuneration and expenses be received and filed. Mayor Foxton, your vote for that?
Yes.
Councillor Roman,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
that carries.
Thank you. Next is the terms of reference for the Air Bicentennial Anniversary Programming Committee. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, go ahead, Ms. Sage.
Moved by Councillor Gillespie, seconded by Councillor McCreary, that CAO Report 05-2021 be received, and that the terms of reference for the Air Bicentennial Anniversary Programming Committee dated March 22nd, 2021 be adopted, and that staff be authorized to commence with the advertisement and recruitment campaign to solicit interested members of the community for appointment to the Air Bicentennial Anniversary Programming Committee. Mayor Foxton, your vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roman,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
that carries.
And next we have the addendum 1, the TECO block, and you do not have to read it in its entirety. Is there any questions? Seeing none, could you do the vote in reverse order, please, this time? Oh, sorry, Ms. McCreary. Okay, Councilor McCreary. You're on mute.
Oh, the Teco block one, this is about issuing the building permit sort of in advance? Or, there was a comment at the beginning of the report about the township accepting the risks associated with doing this. Like, what risks could there be to the township for doing this?
I don't know if Shannon wants to take that or CEO McNeely. Shall we let Shannon get her feet wet, CEO McNeely? Go ahead, Shannon, dive in.
Good evening. So the risks associated were with the requesting of the MTO to issue a permit prior to. And as a result of the township taking on that risk, we are saying that we would not grant them occupancy prior to them fulfilling all the requirements from the MTO standpoint. As far as the conditional permit goes, the Ontario Building Code Act does put into place that all the risks associated with the conditional permit do fall to the owner of the property and the one that's asking for the conditional permit, which again is why we are also asking for the deposit to be paid to allow us to be able to utilize it in the event that something does go wrong. Then we do have that and the agreement.
CEO McNeely, we did this once before, didn't we not? On this, in the general same area?
Yes, Madam Mayor, the history of, you may recall the Heineman
Yes.
Transport Depot on Cedar Creek Road in the proximity to Earl Thompson Road. Township followed a similar practice. If I could suggest that the Ministry of Transportation is extremely conservative and want all approvals typically in place. So they asked that this clause that Councilor McCreary Councilor McCreary has identified in the resolution form part of the recommendation itself. It is actually contained in the actual draft agreement, and it does place the onus on the owner. The owner has assumed all risks associated with the agreement, and as Ms. Black has identified, not only is it enshrined in the agreement, but it's backed with financial security. The other key component is this is not a full building permit. The works that are being proposed under the agreement are exclusively for the purposes of a footing and foundation system. And the broader superstructure would be either a future amendment to this agreement and or would occur after site plan approval has been put in place. And then the building permit could be issued under normal circumstances. So there are a couple of further checks and balances beyond this agreement itself.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions. Can you do not have to read it in its entirety, Ms. Sage?
Moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor McCreary, the building report number 01-2021 be received and as presented in the staff report. Mayor Foxton, your vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roman,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yes.
Okay, that carries.
Thank you. And next we have correspondence. Was there any questions on correspondence? I think I was going to page 95. I believe that's the cannabis one. Let me just get there. Sorry, guys, just give me a minute. B City Forward to create a foundation for a comprehensive national framework to provide restricted access to regulated cannabis and to control its production, distribution, sale, implementation. C. McLeary, have you read this over at all? Page 95? The police have not been given lawful authority to lay charges under the Cannabis Act to appropriately respond to violations of Health Canada regulations, registration, and licenses. Whereas there is no direct communication or dedicated effort to provide a communication channel between municipal government staff or police agencies for dealing with Health Canada registration and licenses. So they're asking that be it resolved that require the federal licenses and registration for designated growers to conform with local zoning and control bylaws and ensure local authorities are provided with notification of any licensed issuance, amendments, suspensions, reinstatements, and revocation within their regions. Is this something we should look into and deal with, CO McNeely?
So, Madam Mayor, in parallel, but not touching upon exactly all the things that were in that resolution, Council, just prior to the break, asked staff to look at all regulatory tools that would be available to staff in terms of citing of cannabis grow operations, inclusive of things like odor suppression, lighting, etc. So that work is underway. And it's a joint venture between the building division, bylaw, and planning staff. And we've been working with some municipalities in both Niagara region and in Essex County, where there's actually been quite a significant surge in terms of a number of cannabis operations. The aspect that Brock has identified, some of it will be addressed in that follow-up report that's underway right now by staff. Other elements, such as notification. We are notified by projected growers because they're obligated to notify both police and fire. And that's how we've been notified in the past. And in some cases, it has triggered building permits. And so that's the second means in which we would have been notified. And if you recall, there was a grow up facility proposed at the intersection of Dumfries and Alps. And we actually brought that letter as part of correspondence to Township Council when that introductory letter was submitted to us. So we are given notification, albeit it's typically directly through either the police services or the fire department, because they are supposed to submit both security plans as well as fire suppression, fire rescue type submissions and seek concurrence from those two emergency service groups.
But I got the impression that even though there are regulations under the health code, that there's no way of enforcing them, that police do not have the ability to step in, nor do bylaw. So who enforces this?
Health Canada through one of their enforcement divisions. Because they're
where is their nearest enforcement division?
The RCMP. So they're the ones who are obligated under legislation to issue licenses, and anyone who's growing that does not have a license is subject to review by the federal government and its associated agencies. That's the way the legislation is crafted.
Thank you. The other one I had was on the heritage minutes of December 17th on the third of 4 pages. It says under 3.3 that 3219 Roseville Road, there would be property owner Mr. English request that the committee consider removing the dwelling located at 3219 Roseville Road from the Built Heritage Inventory. There was a report coming back on January 27th. So what was the decision on that report? Do we know?
So, Madam Mayor, turns out that the council, Township Dumfries, had actually removed that property from our heritage inventory much earlier in the year, back in August, but our records were not up to date. So once we received the updated information, it turns out that his report was not needed because he was already removed from the list. And I believe the CEO contacted Mr. English and informed him of that.
Perfect. Thank you
My
very much,
apologies-
Councillor
my
Rowland.
apologies to Mr. English.
Is there any other questions in regards to correspondence? Seeing none, you do not have to read the motion in its entirety, Ms. Sage. Go ahead, please.
And moved by Councillor Gillespie, seconded by Councillor Rowland, the council received the following items as presented, 9.1.1 through to 9.1.13 as presented. Mayor Foxton, your vote?
We're going to do it backwards, but I'll go first. Go ahead.
Oh,
Yes.
sure. Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor Rowland.
Yes.
Okay, that carries.
Thank you. And next we have motions 9.3.1 Regional Waterloo minutes.
We do have the motion for the advisory committee minutes.
That's right. That's the one I missed. Please go ahead with that one.
Sure. So moved by Councillor Ossner, seconded by Councillor Gillespie, that council received for the purposes of information the following items. Leisure and Lifestyle Advisory Committee minutes dated November 18th, 2020, Heritage Advisory Committee minutes dated December 17th, 2020, and the Strategic Shareholders Advisory Committee minutes dated February 10th, 2021 and February 24th, 2021.
And backwards again, please.
Sure. Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor Rowland,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes, thank you.
That carries.
Okay, and now we go on to the Regional Waterloo and the GRAC and minutes.
Certainly. So moved by Councillor McCreary, seconded by Councillor Rowland, that council received for the purposes of information the following items. Region of Waterloo minutes dated February 9th, 2021, and the Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes dated February 25th, 2021. Mayor Foxton, your vote for that?
Yes,
Councillor Rowland,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yes.
Okay, that carries.
thank you. And we have the, okay, just say the Satura dog waste receptacles. Now there was, I believe it was on the TV news, CKC or CBC News or whatever, about this, and they were saying they were offering it free to the region of Waterloo. When they say the region of Waterloo, they don't necessarily mean the municipalities or the township, but only regional areas. And free meant that you pay a monthly fee of $149 per unit. And a member of the public had sent an email in regards to this, and so I asked her to bring forward. So it actually wasn't brought forward by me, but it was a correspondence that I forwarded to Ms. Sage. And it was just an item to bring forward. It was not really a motion. And it says the information to be received. I don't think it, Councillor Rowland said that's like having a house. You're saying it's for free, but you're charging them rent. So it's just for follow-up from a constituent. So if you'd like to read that, Ms. Sage.
Certainly. So moved by Councillor Gillespie, seconded by Councillor Rowland, that the report from Mayor Foxton regarding dog waste receptacles be received. Mayor Foxton, your vote?
Yes,
Councillor Rowland,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
and Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
Okay, that carries.
and the next one, why are these all saying me when I send you the correspondence from the residents? Because the next one also says me, but you received the correspondence from the resident. I forwarded to you.
It's here for discussion purposes.
Yeah, but why would you put my name under it? I'm just forwarding an email.
Okay,
This has never been done like this before. So the correspondence is coming from the residents. As I respond to them, I ask you to put their wishes forward. So I don't know why they're all falling under me. The next one is as well. But anyways, so again, this is another correspondence from a resident. I had stated to them our parks say closing at 9. I have told them about the vandalism. I've also told them about the vandalism in regards to the tennis courts. They still want the tennis courts open till 11. Council, CEO McNeely.
Madam Mayor, a concern about keeping the tennis court open to 11 o'clock or after 9 p.m. is we don't have lighting going into the park or exiting the park. So the ring road itself, there is no lighting. So if an individual were to be playing in the park, let's say tennis, up to 11 o'clock and then the timer goes off, the park is dark. Because the lighting is perimeter to the park. It's on Rose and it's at the terminus of Church Street in proximity to Walter. The only lighting is the ball diamond itself, which is long shut off because it's junior play. And there's a dawn to dusk light at the southwest corner of the tennis court that used to illuminate where the old canteen building was once upon a time. But the ring road itself is not lit. And so anyone walking in or out of the park would be doing so in darkness. And of course, there's a safety issue in terms of slip trip hazards, because not everyone would necessarily be driving to the park.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. That makes a lot of sense. Councillor Rossner.
So we've had those tennis courts there for many years. And when we had a tennis club, we had the very same thing. We had the lights on till, well, maybe not quite as late as 11 o'clock, but probably pretty close. And we shut the lights off, or whoever ran the tennis club shut the lights off and exited. That has been a practice for at least 30 years that I know of. So I don't know why now we're worried about people with the lack of lighting that has been that way for 30 years. So not that I'm going over saying, you know, that we used to do this and why don't we do this anymore now, but I think that why have lights if you're not going to let people use them? The lights, it gets dark at 9 o'clock. Some people only want to play till we used to go for walks all the time. There always would be people playing. Matter of fact, we used to have, I believe we used to have a timer on there where they automatically went off at 11 o'clock. So this whole idea of locking up the parks, you know, maybe we can have bylaw drive around between 9 and 11 o'clock, checking our parks out to make sure there's vandalism, because like, I mean, there's no sense having a park and lights if you're not going to let people use them. And if you're not going to enforce your parks, then, you know, we shouldn't have parks. We have to let the residents use the parks. And tennis, I mean, a lot of times there's a lot of people playing tennis, and some people, you know, they get there later. And, you know, if you get there at 8:30, you're only playing for half an hour. So I think there's a lot to be said, whether we can come up with a system of like not renting out the key, but having a key that when they exit, they can lock it. I don't know how we're going to do that because we don't have an official tennis club anymore. But I think we should be making the tennis courts available to use.
CEO McNeely, years ago, when we were having a lot of problems at Schmidt Park with the break-ins, and I had a septet done, the number one recommendation was that they have motion lights. The motion lights, so when they went on, people would realize and see that somebody was there doing something wrong. Again, that may not be a bad idea for the tennis courts, is that motion lights, because the neighboring properties backing onto the park would see that somebody's there. If you're motionless on tennis, then maybe you shouldn't be there. But it may be the answer to the situation. Councillor Ossner.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we used to have a light as you entered into the tennis courts. I thought we used to have a light that was always on. What was there? There used to be a pole there with a light. Has that been removed, or?
Was that the one near the ball pitch? Was there one near the ball pitch?
So there is and continues to be a dawn to dusk light, and it's situated at the southwest corner of the tennis courts. It is on a pole adjacent to the tennis court, but at its southwest corner. And I can only assume it was trying to illuminate the area in and around where the canteen was prior to the fire of 2020.
Councillor Ossner.
Yeah.
We're
Now-
playing tennis.
Is there, for the summer months, can we not have those lights automatically on from 9 to 11 o'clock every night and have a staff member lock the tennis courts at 11 o'clock at night? We have a staff member moving about town, do we not?
So starting in May, we typically do run a later shift because they have to make sure that the washrooms at Schmidt Park as well as Cowan are cleaned as well as locked up. But I believe generally they're finishing up around 10:30 or so. The lights at both the Schmidt Ball Diamond as well as the tennis courts at Victoria Park are on timers. The lights at the Schmidt Park, they're actually set by the occupant. So if they enter into the court and they wish to play with lights, there's a button for them to activate, but it has an override. And right now it's programmed to go off shortly after 9 p.m.
Councillor Rollerman and then Councillor McCreary.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to say there wasn't another email regarding the tennis court, something about pickleball. I don't see that on the correspondence list.
Somebody wanted the lines for pickleball marked on the new tennis courts as well as the old ones.
So what I was wondering was, are we going to basically decommission these tennis courts at Victoria Park and turn these into pickleball courts, and then only have tennis courts at Cedar Creek or at Schmidt Park? Or are we going to have a combination of pickleball and tennis at both courts?
So Madam Mayor, ideally we'd like to have both sets of courts allowing for the dual play, because there may be the opportunity to schedule pickleball and or tennis at certain times and then drop in as the need warrants at other times.
So Councillor McCreary.
To CAO McNeely through the mayor. CAO, are you saying that the only reason why we can't leave the tennis court lights on until 11 p.m. is the issue of liability? Like if someone's there at 11, the lights go out, they have to walk out of the park in the dark. Is that the reason?
No, the actual reason is because council passed a bylaw saying that the parks started to be empty at 9 o'clock. So it's set for 9 o'clock. The resident has raised, why aren't we allowed to have tennis after 9 p.m.? So council would have to amend its bylaw. And if it's specific to the tennis courts at Victoria Park, then provide that direction. Staff will then program the clock timer such that it shuts off at a few minutes after 11 o'clock if it's activated.
Now, I think we went to the 9 o'clock meeting to deal with Clyde Park because the police were going there at 9 or after and moving the young people along because we had had such a problem with that. But we can make an exception for certain parks like Victoria Park, correct, CAO McNeely? And then Councillor Austin.
So Madam Mayor, yes, council can provide whatever direction it wishes.
Councillor Austin.
So just so I get this straight there, you're saying that we passed a bylaw that parks are to be closed at 9 o'clock, so soccer should not be going on at the NDCC?
No, because the bylaw says where there's a permitted activity. And so it speaks to Cowan Park and Schmidt as two examples where it can extend beyond that time period. That's why I'm saying if council wishes, specific to Vic Park, the tennis courts to be open past 9 p.m., and council should provide that direction and the amendment can be made.
Thank you, Councilor Wilman.
I think, sorry, can I finish just my,
Go ahead.
so I think that in the situation where we have facilities that lighted facilities or lit facilities that can be used, for example, the tennis courts, I think that should lump itself in with Cowan Park and Schmidt Park with the bowl, the diamonds, and soccer fields as well.
Councilor Wilman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do recall, though, one of the reasons why we talked about the 9 o'clock closure was because we were getting complaints about the lights being left on the tennis courts until 11 o'clock at night. There was nobody playing tennis after 9 o'clock. I remember walking over many times from my house over to Victoria Park, seeing nobody over there, seeing the lights on all night, until 11 o'clock at night, getting complaints from all the neighbors. Similarly, at Schmidt Park, I remember going over there late at night and the lights were left on the ball diamonds. No one was there. So as council, we decided at that time to stop, at 9 o'clock. And then through the permit process, people were allowed to stay later. So maybe with the tennis courts, the thing to do is have some kind of online sign up where people can book their times at the tennis courts. We know exactly who's booked and they have instructions to follow. They know turn off the lights when they're done. And maybe that's the way to look at it. But just having them 11 o'clock at night in the past didn't work. We got a lot of complaints.
Any other comments or questions? Councilor Wilman, I kind of like the idea of either leading them on to a set time so that we're not tying staff running around to make sure lights are on or off or whatever. I would like the set time to probably be 11 o'clock with if at all possible, a dimmer starting around 11:45, warning the people they have 15 minutes before the lights are off and the park darkens. What are your other thoughts, councillors? It does seem not logical to provide lights in a park and then not use them in the summer when the parks seem to be the most active. Just a thought, Councillor Wilman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps this is too much for us to deal with tonight. Maybe we should have our new director, Karen, prepare a report for us on the best practices for this and come back to council with that.
What a brilliant idea. I like passing that buck. Karen Winter, is that okay?
That will be fine.
Thank you very much. So is that okay, Councillor Ossner? Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
I have a question, and it's probably maybe a very silly question, but does Ayr have street lights? And how late do the street lights stay on?
All night.
All night.
So like, why would somebody be complaining about lights in the tennis court that are turning off at 11? Street lights stay on until all night.
Because the lights do not shine into the tennis courts with the high trees and everything else. It is black in there. There is no other lightage. It's blocked by buildings and homes and trees.
Oh, excuse me, Mayor Foxon, you're saying that the park's very dark?
Yes, it is. The street lights don't enter into the property of the park.
Well, no, my comment was related to, like, why would people complain about lights being on at the tennis court when just
Oh, I see what you're saying. When they're on in the front of their house.
the houses that are backing onto the tennis courts, they're on a street that has lights. So those lights are on. I'm surprised that there would be complaints about something like that. And it's only till 11 at night.
True. Good point. So with council's permission, we will turn this over to Ms. Winter, who will advise us at the next meeting, hopefully. Good enough? All right, so do we want to amend this motion to state that we're dumping this on Ms. Winter? Ms. Sage, would you have better wording for that?
I can add a second section to the motion maybe, and that council direct staff to prepare a report for a future meeting of council.
Perfect, thank you.
Perfect. So moved by, that's Councillor Gillespie, and seconded by Councillor Ossner, that the report from Mayor Foxton residents requesting, seeking an extended hours of operation for Victoria Park tennis courts through to 11 p.m. daily be received, and that council direct staff to prepare a report to return to a future meeting of council on this matter. Mayor Foxton, your vote on that?
Yes,
Councillor Rollman,
Yes.
Councillor Oster,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yes.
Okay, that carries.
thank you. The next one is regards to the steering committee dealing with the merger between Energy Plus and Brantford Power. When the meeting first started, the CAOs were invited to attend. The City of Brantford CAO attends all the meetings, but we were informed by our CAO, City of Cambridge and North Dumfries, that it could only be done by appointment of council. So I'm asking now that this council consider appointing Andrew McNeely to attend these meetings with me. And I'll tell you why. The information's overwhelming, but it's not just that. He's hearing one thing from the SSAC committee. Is that what it's called, SSAC? Is that correct? Thank you. And another thing's being said at the steering committee. And since CEO McNeely is involved in both committees, he can tell me when things are going off track. Because this is going to take forever if I'm getting one story from the right and another story from the left. Councillor Rossner.
Thank you, Mayor Foxton. I think a lot of that was rectified when we met with the with Energy Plus, and a lot of it was kind of straightened out. A lot of the miscommunication was straightened out. If Andrew's, if CEO McNeely is willing to do that and feels that it's a valuable use of his time, then by all means. I mean, I don't want to enforce it on him, but if it's necessary and he feels that there's an absolute benefit to doing that and he wants to do that, then yeah, I absolutely have no problem with it. I just don't want him to feel like he's pushed into it.
I understand. And the reason I brought this forward is because I was made aware of the meeting that you had with the Energy Plus people explaining everything, and everything was just fine until he read the documents that I was dealing with after your meeting, which did not match with what your meeting said. And so right then, that's what caused this. This huge, if he had not informed me and I had not told him, they're completely different. What you heard is not the same as what's going on. Councillor Ossner, then Councillor McCreary.
So is that not what our lawyer is charged to take care of? I mean,
The lawyer's not involved in our meetings. They don't see that either until after the fact. That's why I think I need him there to make sure that what's being told to you is exactly the same that's what's happening at our meeting.
but just correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just trying to understand what information you're receiving that we're not, because the bottom line is we're trying to get through a deal here, and it doesn't matter what Brantford's saying and what Energy Plus is saying.
You have to be very careful. This is all closed stuff. So be very, very careful. All I'm asking today is that I have a consistent voice at both meetings. That's all I'm asking for. Say nothing else, please. Councillor McCreary, what were you going to say? You're still on mute?
Mayor Foxton, you're talking about adding CAO McNeely to the Utility Steering Committee, which is the committee of the two local distribution companies.
Correct.
Yeah. How can we do that as the Council of North Dumfries? Because I thought that committee was struck quite a while ago by the two local distribution companies, by Energy.
And it was set up with the CAOs, involved. CEO McNeely and CEO Calder decided to back out and said, we can't do this unless a vote by council. And the Brantford had already, so right now I sit around the table with 5 or 6 people from Brantford and myself and Catherine McGarry. And then a few people from Energy Plus. There's a huge imbalance. And I think I need that link between the two groups so that we're staying on target. I need to know what your group is hearing is exactly what we're discussing in the other meeting. Because now it looks like it's gone off track again. If it keeps going off track, we're never going to get anything done. That's why I need C.L. McNeely there, because he was at the other meeting and he could have said, this is not what was discussed. And so right then that would, because I tried to do that at the meeting, even though I didn't attend your meeting. And I tried, and so actually I got all of our information from this past meeting deferred because it was incongruous. Councillor Osner.
Thank you, Mayor Foxton. I'm still not convinced, to be honest with you, because you know we have the strategic advisory committee for a reason, and we're taking legal advice, we're taking financial advice, etc. We're getting all the facts, and everything is presented between lawyers and financial accountants, etc. Everything else is hearsay. So I mean, we're the advisory to, as the chair of the committee, we are advisory to Cambridge North Dumfries, and likewise they have their own strategic advisory committee. I'm not understanding, to be honest with you, what difference Energy Plus says. When this information,
Energy Plus, it's the joint committee that provides the information to you.
yeah.
So you haven't seen what I've seen yet, but it does not match what you saw.
Yeah.
C.L. McNeely, can you
But
explain that?
are we to, excuse me, I just want to finish my point. But as a strategic advisory committee, we're not pertinent to that information, I believe, because that information is not pertinent to us when we're advising council of Cambridge North Dumfries of how the progress and how the deal is progressing.
This information will come to you when we're done with it, but I don't want it to be reinventing the wheel every time. C.L. McNeely, can you help me out? Because you saw both sides and you were not a happy camper.
So, Madam Mayor, I guess the best I can describe is this. The two respective boards of directors, so in our case, Energy Plus, and in the case of Brantford Hydro, they are to make recommendations to their respective shareholders on a framework of a proposal for a merger of the two utilities. The steering committee, appointed by the two boards of directors, are meant to ferret through the information and present back to the respective boards of directors the strongest business case and model for the proposed merger. In our case, the SSAC is a joint advisory body comprised of representatives of the two councils of Cambridge and North Dumfries, who are representative of the shareholders of Energy Plus. And we're supposed to assess, test, and evaluate the information provided by the board of directors of Energy Plus on the basis for the merger. The reality is we, as the SSAC, are to look at what's in the best interest of the shareholders that would further Energy Plus as a go-forward strategy, and ultimately council, as the shareholder, has to make the determination whether the merger makes sense. What has been frustrating to date is we seem to move forward with information, it's assessed, we step back, new information comes forward, and over the last 3 or 4 months, we've been going back and forth, testing, evaluating the business case, and identifying potential gaps in methodology and or application. The issues are narrowing, but we appear to have received some information at our meeting approximately 2 weeks ago. That was introduced to us before the utility steering committee actually dealt with it. And so some things have come out of sequence there. And that's, events of the last week to 10-day period. Okay. So, that's a little bit frustrating because certain understandings were made 2 weeks ago. And, we have then spent the last 2 weeks advancing further documents in terms of review and assessment based on what we had been presented. It actually was not a position taken yet by the steering committee and a recommendation back to the respective boards. And so ultimately, that may or may not be a position taken by the two boards as it relates to potential items to be plugged into the business case for the merger.
That a little bit better? So you see where I'm coming from. I need the consistency and I need the backing of CEO beside me saying, that's not exactly what the group was told. And me trying to do that without being at your meeting and have full information is difficult. I must say that when I got the package I got, I quickly pulled Ms. Stedall and CEO McNeely into a meeting and said, did you guys see this? So we need the consistency and we need to be a lot stronger because I'll tell you, Brantford's pretty damn strong, darn strong, or I recorded, sorry. So I'm asking that you allow CEO McNeely to attend with me. You're on mute again.
Is the CAO from Cambridge also going to be attending?
So, Madam Mayor, if I may, I
Please.
made my counterpart in Cambridge aware that this item was going to be discussed this evening. And, obviously not knowing what the final decision of council would be, I told them that I would advise them once council makes a decision. And then I'm working on the premise that if council were to ask me to participate in utility steering committee meetings, that he would then take that under advisement and would make it known to his council.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Osner.
Well, if CAO McNeely is excited and chomping at the bit to do this, then hey, who am I to say no?
Councillor Rollerman.
I think, Madam Mayor, I guess if we need to, level the playing field or bring in the big guns, I guess, as it were, then I guess the CEO is pumped up and ready to go. So let's do it.
He just loved putting this on his work plan. So can I have the motion, please?
Certainly. So moved by Councillor Gillespie, seconded by Councillor Rollerman, that the report from Mayor Foxton regarding an appointment to the Utility Steering Committee be received, and that council directs staff to provide Andrew McNeely, to allow Andrew McNeely, Chief Administrative Officer, to sit on the Utility Steering Committee. Mayor Foxton, your vote for that?
Yes.
Councillor Rollerman?
Yes.
Councillor Oster?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
carried.
you. And bylaws to be read a first and second time, please. Any other comments? We're good? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Sage.
Moved by Councillor.
Aren't we going into, don't we read the bylaws after we go in and close? Are we doing close after bylaws?
Yeah, we always do closed session after the bylaws.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. Moved by Councillor Gillespie, seconded by Councillor
Why does it
McCreary.
say-
Sorry?
Sorry,
Oh.
I'm just looking at, why does it say under bylaws, it says none?
This was added as an addendum item
Oh,
today.
that, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Moved by Councillor Gillespie, seconded by Councillor McCreary, that the following bylaws be taken as read a first and second time. Bylaw number 3236-21 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3216 21 being an amendment to the general zoning bylaw 689-83 for the Township of North Dumfries. Mayor Foxton, your vote for that?
Yes.
Councillor Rollman,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yes.
Okay, that carries.
Thank you. And bylaw read a third time and finally passed?
Moved by Councillor Rollman, seconded by Councillor Ossner, that the following bylaws be taken as read a third time and finally passed. Bylaw number 3236-21 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 3216-21 being an amendment to the general zoning bylaw 689-83 for the Township of North Dumfries. Mayor Foxton, your vote for that?
Yes.
Councillor Rollman,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yes.
That
Thank
carries.
you. And motion to go into closed.
Moved by Councillor Rollman, seconded by Councillor Ossner, that council move into a closed meeting session at 8:00 p.m. under the Municipal Act, Section 239, subsection 2, subsection C and K to discuss 1, report number CAO-07-2021, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, Municipal Act Section 239, 2 subsection K, and report number CAO-08-2021, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, Municipal Act Section 239, 2 subsection C. Mayor Foxton, your vote for that?
Yes.
Councillor Rollman,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yes.
Okay, that carries.
Thank you. So we will take